Hey everybody, it's Josh. Welcome back to the Landlord Harassment channel. Now, I had said that I wasn't going to make another video about the whole situation with Haverkamp Properties before my court hearing, which is this Monday. But because I made my very first top something list, top five list, with relation to a health video earlier today, I also decided to make a top five list for landlord harassment. So here are my top five signs that your landlord might be harassing you, and all of these have happened to me. So let's get into this. Reason number five: bogus notices to quit. Now, what a notice to quit is when you're engaging in some kind of lease violation, and your landlord writes you basically a warning. There might be a fine that comes with the warning, telling you to stop whatever behavior you're engaged in. This is generally done to warn people who might be having parties that are too loud, or people who are getting themselves arrested for one reason or another, or so on and so forth, right? In my situation, I got a bogus notice to quit is where you're being written up for really no good reason at all, or being written up for invoking your rights in the first place. Now, in my situation, the thing that started this whole thing between me and Brooke Farmer, the landlord that's been harassing me, is the fact that she didn't want to honor my right to peace and quiet in my own house. She felt like my neighbors were allowed to make as much noise as they wanted to, and I had no right to do anything about it, and she wasn't going to do nothing about it. So one day she sent me an email telling me just that. And I sent her an email telling her, no, you cannot make up orders for me on the spot. I do have the right to communicate with my neighbors, and I have the right to quiet enjoyment of my property, which is a legal right. And me invoking my legal right to quiet enjoyment of my property prompted her to put a notice to quit, a behavioral violation notice on my door. And that's how this all started. But this leads me into reason number four of my top five list, that your landlord might be harassing you. He or she makes rules for you that don't apply to anybody else. Now, Brooke has long had rules in place. Brooke Farmer, since she's taken over, a year and a half ago, she has long since put rules in place for me that simply don't exist for the other tenants. I'm not allowed to communicate with my neighbors at all if they're making excessive noise. I can't knock their door. I can't leave them a note. I can't do anything without fearing a notice to quit, a threat of eviction. And in fact, the very reason I'm being evicted is because I left the upstairs neighbors a note to tell them to stop pounding on my ceiling. So that's another sign that your landlord is harassing you, that he or she makes rules that only seem to apply to you, while in the meantime ignoring all your own rights in the process. Number three, constant emails to meet. Now, another thing Brooke did over the course of about a 6-month period is she would send me emails asking me to meet to discuss how my tenancy is going, and so on and so forth. And what she was trying to do is she was trying to draw me into a meeting where she could coerce me into breaking my lease. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Your landlords are not supposed to do that. There's laws against that. They shouldn't do that. Number two, your landlord shows up at your house. Now, it's perfectly fine for your landlord to show up at your house, even unannounced, if you owe them rent, or if they have another good reason to be there, such as they think there might be domestic... Excuse me. I don't know what's coming over me. Sorry, something was in my throat for a second. Anyway, it's okay for your landlord to come to your house if you owe rent, or if they have a good reason to be there. They fear there might be domestic violence going on inside your house. You might be beating up on your girlfriend. Um, you've gotten yourself arrested a few times. They fear you might be dealing drugs in here. That's a legit reason for them to show up at your house. But if they don't have a reason like that, they've got no business coming to your house and knocking your door. Them coming to your house to knock your door because they don't like a particular behavior that you've engaged in, that you have every right to engage in, is not cool. And it is against the law. And that's what happened with me last summer when the upstairs neighbors were running around and pounding on my ceiling when I was trying to read again. I hit the ceiling 3 or 4 times just to get the noise to stop. And a half hour later, Brooke Farmer from Haverkamp Properties actually knocked my door. I get a knock on my door. I open it. It's Brooke Farmer standing right there. And she asked me if I hit the ceiling, and I said yes, and I told her why. And she basically spent the next 10 minutes at my door in my face telling me that I have no right to respond to the noise that's going on above me, whether it's leaving notes, hitting the ceiling, anything like that. And I spent the next 10 minutes standing right up to her and telling her, no, I ain't going for that. I have a right to peace and quiet in my home. And that's the way it is. I finally got rid of her after 10 minutes, but I remember how violated I felt. You know what I mean? Like when she came to my door. I could not believe this crazy woman came to my door. Still can't. What landlord in the world comes and knocks your door and gets in your face because you wanted the upstairs neighbors to stop running around and stop banging on your ceiling so that you could concentrate on something? I remember the whole next 2 days, my mind was in a fog of that. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know what I mean? But that's what she did. But so if your landlord shows up at your house without a good reason and basically just to bully you the way Brooke Farmer did to me, that's a really good sign that you're being illegally harassed by your landlord. Finally, number 1, files a bogus eviction claim against you. Now again, real eviction claims are fine. If you're behind on rent, if you're somebody that's known to cause trouble, they have the right to file eviction against you. But if you're a guy like me, who's been living here quietly for 8 years, who's been paying his rent for 8 years, who lives a quiet life, and they're just filing an eviction against you because of somebody's personal disdain for you or the way you carry yourself or whatever, that's wrong, that's illegal. You guys don't have to, you as a tenant do not have to put up with that. And you do not have to put up with any of these other actions that Brooke Farmer has engaged in against me. And Haverkamp Properties has engaged in against me. So if any of this starts happening to you, stand up to them. Take it all the way to court. Even if you lose, at least you fought. You know? A landlord should not be able to get away with causing this much trouble in your life just because they decide they don't personally like you. But I'm going to digress on that because there's court Monday and I don't want to say too much more. But what I will tell you is that I have a really good case, and I've got a lot of good information. I wanted to drop hints as to what some of that information is, but I'm just not going to. But it's some good stuff. And I expect to do well. I expect that even if I lose, I'm still going to be able to set myself up for future court hearings very nicely with regard to coming back after Haverkamp Properties. But anyway, this is my top 5 reasons or my top 5 signs your landlord might be harassing you. You do not have to put up with a bogus notice to quit, bogus behavioral report. You do not have to put up with a landlord making rules for you that you know darn well she doesn't apply to anybody else. You do not have to put up with constant emails. You do not have to put up with your landlord showing up at your house when you've done nothing wrong. And you certainly don't have to put up with fake bogus evictions. So there you go. That's all there is for today. I'm going to make a video Monday after the hearing. Even if I lose, I'm still okay, because there's other options if I lose, and we'll talk about that next week. All right.